What if a just man lost everything? Children, wealth, health, friends, and what if even God seemed to have kept silent? Satan rises and says, "He only serves you because everything goes well. In one single day, everything crumbles. The house falls. Morning arrives. Pain screams, accused by those who should console him." But Job does not curse God. In the ashes of humiliation, in words mixed with pain and clamor, Job raises his voice. Today you will know the complete story of the book of Job, in a way you may have never seen, without filters and without nonsense. Stay until the end, and I am sure that the story of this powerful book will change something in your life. In the vast land of Uz, under the scorching sky of the Orient, lived a man who was blameless. His name was Job. He was upright, just feared God, and turned away from evil. The reputation of his piety echoed like a chant among the men of his generation. There was no flaw in him, nor shadow of deviation. He was a living example of righteousness before God. Job was also an extremely prosperous man. He possessed 7 sons and 3 daughters, a great family, a symbol of blessing and continuity. His riches covered the land like the morning dew. 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, besides a multitude of servants. He was, without a doubt, the greatest of all men of the Orient. His sons had the custom of feasting, each on his day, and invited their sisters to celebrate together. It was a banquet full of life, joy, and abundance. But at the end of each round of feasts, Job, the silent and vigilant patriarch, would rise at dawn. He offered burnt offerings to God, one for each son, saying to himself, "Perhaps they have sinned and blasphemed against God in their heart." So he did always. Job was the priest of his house, a faithful intercessor. But while Job was busy serving and fearing the Lord, the scene changes place. The heavens open. The sons of God, the angels, present themselves before the throne of the Most High. And among them comes also Satan, not disguised, not hidden, but directly before God. The Lord then questions him, "From where do you come?" Satan responds with the coldness of roaming the earth and walking back and forth on it. Then God, with pride in his voice, points to Job. "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him, a man blameless and upright, who fears God and turns away from evil." But the accuser does not keep silent. With irony on his lips, he responds, "Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not hedged him about with goods, him and his house and all that he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions multiply in the land. But stretch out your hand now and touch all that he has, and you will see if he will not blaspheme you to your face." There was a cosmic tension there. It was not just about Job, but about human integrity before suffering. God, in his sovereignty, permits the test. He delivers everything that Job possesses into the hands of the accuser with a single condition: do not stretch out your hand against him. And Satan leaves the presence of the Lord with a dark purpose. The cursed day arrives without warning. Job's sons and daughters were feasting, as usual, in the house of the eldest brother. Suddenly, a messenger arrives running, sweaty and terrified. The oxen were plowing and the donkeys grazing near them, and the Sabeans attacked them. They killed the servants, and I alone escaped to tell you. While this one was still speaking, another appears at the door. Fire of God fell from heaven, burned the sheep and the servants and consumed them. I alone escaped, and yet another. The Chaldeans formed 3 bands, attacked the camels, and killed the servants. I alone escaped to tell you, but nothing could prepare Job for the last blow. One last messenger, panting, falls to his knees. Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking in the house of the eldest brother, when a great wind came from the desert, struck the 4 corners of the house, and it collapsed upon them. They all died. I was the only one who escaped to tell you. Silence. Job, the most upright man on earth, was now a desolate man. Everything had been taken from him. Then Job rises, tears his mantle, and shaves his head, and in a gesture that would make the heavens tremble, he bows to the ground and worships. With tear-filled eyes and dusty body, he says, "Naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked I will return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." And even before the greatest pain of his life, Job did not sin, nor did he attribute any fault to God. Once again, the heavens open. The scene repeats itself. The sons of God, the angels, present themselves before the Lord. It is a divine audience where heaven observes the earth in silence. And among those who present themselves is he, Satan, the accuser. The Lord looks at him and asks again, "From where do you come?" And with the same coldness as the first time, Satan responds, "From roaming the earth and from walking back and forth on it." But God, with a firm voice, mentions his servant once more. "Have you considered my servant Job? For there is none like him on the earth, a man blameless, upright, fearing God, who turns away from evil and still holds fast his integrity, although you incited me against him to consume him without cause." Satan closes his eyes and spits his words. Skin for skin. All that a man has, he will give for his life. Stretch out your hand, however, and touch his bones, his flesh, and you will see if he will not blaspheme you to your face. It was a new challenge, Job's integrity again being put to the test. But the Lord knows the heart of his servants. "Behold, he is in your hand. Only spare his life," replied the Lord. Then, Satan leaves the presence of God like a shadow crawling over the earth, determined to destroy the body of that just man. And Job feels the touch of suffering in his own flesh. Boils appear on his skin, painful, foul, burning like live embers. From the top of his head to the sole of his feet, his body is covered by open sores. The man who was once surrounded by honor now sits in ashes on the edge of the city, with a piece of pottery in his hands, scraping the wounds in silence. But the biggest blow would come from where he least expected. His wife, seeing that scene and perhaps taken by despair, by pain, or even by disbelief, approaches and says, "Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die." But Job, even wounded, with his body in ruins and his heart crushed, responds with firmness and wisdom. "You speak as any foolish woman speaks. Shall we indeed receive good from God, and shall we not also receive evil? And even so, even now with his health destroyed, respect lost, wife disillusioned, Job did not sin with his lips." Days later, 3 men arrive from distant lands. They are Job's friends, Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. Upon hearing of his pain, they agree to visit him to console and comfort him. But upon approaching, they barely recognize him. His body was disfigured, his countenance unrecognizable, his eyes deep, his wounds alive, and upon seeing him, they do not say a word. They raise their voice in weeping, tear their mantles in sign of mourning, and cast dust toward heaven over their heads. And then they sit with him in silence for 7 days and 7 nights. No one dares to speak, because they saw that Job's pain was very great. After 7 days and 7 nights, immersed in silence, after dry tears, mute groans, and open wounds, after looking to the heavens and seeing no answer, Job opens his mouth, but it is not to pray. It is not to cry out. It is to curse the day he was born. With a hoarse voice marked by pain, he declares, "Let the day perish wherein I was born, and the night in which it was said, a man-child is conceived. Let that day turn into darkness." Job does not curse God, does not rebel against the Creator, but wishes from the depths of his anguish that his existence had never begun. He asks that that day be erased from the calendar of creation. Let no light shine upon it. Let God not remember it. Let it never have been part of the dance of the universe. Let that day be barren. Let no shout of joy echo in it. Let the densest darkness envelop it. Let a fog swallow it. Job's heart bleeds. He wishes that that night in which he was begotten were cursed by those who know how to invoke curses, as if they could wake the Leviathan, the monster of chaos. Why did I not die at birth? For coming out of the womb already without life. He wishes for the rest of death as relief. He wishes to have been buried beside the kings and counselors of the earth, lying in silence, far from the tumult of life. Or like a hidden abortion, I would not have existed, like the little ones who never saw the light. Job begins to see death not as tragedy, but as solace. There, he says, the wicked cease from troubling. There the weary can rest. There the prisoners are free, and the servant no longer hears the shout of his master. And then he asks, why is light given to the miserable and life to the bitter of soul? He speaks of men who desire death more than treasures, who dig for it as for mines of gold, who rejoice when they find the grave and exult upon being covered by the earth, because light is given to the man whose way is hidden and whom God has hedged in on all sides. Job's words are not blasphemy, but an echo of human despair before the silence of God. His lament ends with a somber whisper. The thing which I greatly feared is come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me. I have no peace, neither have I rest. I have no quietness, only restlessness. The sky remains silent. The wind raises the dust around Job, who remains in silence, covered in wounds and pain. Then Eliphaz the Temanite breaks the silence with a calm but firm voice. If one venture to commune with thee, Job, will thou be grieved? I know that you perhaps do not want to hear, but who could keep silent before all this? He takes a deep breath, looks at the prostrate friend, and begins, You have instructed many. Your words sustained the weak. You were comfort and strength, but now that pain has come to you, do you faint? Eliphaz observes Job for an instant and continues, Remember, whoever perished, being innocent, where were the righteous destroyed, as I have seen? Those who plow iniquity reap the same. By the blast of God, they perish. Eliphaz's speech is based on ancient conviction. For him, there is no suffering without guilt. Then he changes the tone. His look becomes denser, and he tells what he saw in a restless night. A word was secretly brought to me in the fear of the night. A spirit passed before my face. Fear paralyzed me. Then I heard a voice, Shall mortal man be more just than God? Shall a man be more pure than his Maker? He pauses and adds, if God does not trust even his angels, how much less in man made of dust who is crushed like a moth? They perish without warning, without anyone noticing. They die without wisdom. The words hover in the air like heavy clouds. Eliphaz believes he is speaking the truth, but Job's look finds no solace, only more questions and more silence. Eliphaz continues to speak, does not give space for the answer. For him, his vision of the world is as clear as the desert sun. Call now. Job, is there any that will answer you? To which of the holy ones will you turn? His voice is calm, but his words are sharp. Affliction does not come forth from the dust. Suffering does not spring from the earth. Yet man is born unto trouble. As the sparks fly upward, he looks at Job with sincerity. He is convinced of what he says. But if I were in your place, I would seek God. To him I would commit my cause. Eliphaz exalts the greatness of God. He says that he does wonders unsearchable, gives rain to the earth, lifts up the humble and casts down the crafty. He takes the wise in their own craftiness, frustrates the plans of the perverse, but to the poor gives hope. Then, his speech changes again. Now, he gives advice, like someone who offers solace, but it is a hard solace. Behold, happy is the man whom God corrects. Therefore despise not the chastening of the Almighty. He wounds, but also heals. He strikes, but with his hands heals the wounds. Eliphaz promises deliverance from famine, from war, from evil tongues, from the stones of the field. He speaks of an abundant harvest, of numerous children, of peaceful death. Thou shalt come to thy grave in a full age, like as a shock of corn cometh in his season. He ends with a concluding tone. Lo this, we have searched it, so it is. Hear it, then Job, and apply it to thyself. But there before him, Job is still sitting in ashes. The wounded soul is not fed by arguments, and the silence of God still weighs more than any human explanation. Job raises his eyes. The dust still covers his wounded skin, but now his voice returns heavy as a stone. Oh, that my grief were thoroughly weighed. If they put my misery in the scales, it would be heavier than the sand of the seas. His words overflow with anguish. The arrows of the Almighty are within me. The poison drinks up my spirit. God has wounded me, and my groans do not cease. Job compares himself to a hungry animal, but rejects Eliphaz's solace as food without taste. Can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Your word is like the white of an egg, empty. He does not wish to live. He cries out for death as a rest. Even that it would please God to destroy me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. Then should I yet have comfort? At least I would know that I have not denied the words of the Holy One. But Job also reveals his weakness. What is my strength, that I should hope? And what is mine end, that I should prolong my life? I am not of iron, I have no help. Only ruin remains. And then, like a blade that cuts deep, Job speaks to his friends. To him that is afflicted, pity should be shown from his friend, even though he forsaketh the fear of the Almighty. While he accuses Eliphaz and the others of being like a dried river in the time of drought, they promised refreshment, but brought disappointment. You are nothing. You see my pain and are afraid. Did I say, bring unto me, or give a reward for me of your substance? Did I ask you to deliver me? Job ends exhausted, but firm. Teach me, and I will hold my tongue. Make me to understand wherein I have erred. but your words are wind. He faces them with eyes burning with truth. The just will still find strength to resist. But who will endure despair when friends become accusers? Job continues. Now he no longer speaks to his friends. His look crosses the sky in search of God. Is there not an appointed time to man upon earth? Are not his days also like the days of an hireling, sweating for a payment that is slow to come? He describes his nights as torment. When I lie down, I say, when shall I arise and the night be gone? I hope for tomorrow, but sleep is broken by nightmares. My flesh is clothed with worms and clods of dust. My skin is broken and loathsome. Job feels that the days pass like the thread of a needle, fast and without hope. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle. They pass without seeing joy. He then turns directly to God with an embattled voice. Remember, O God, that my life is wind. Mine eye shall no more see good. He feels that he is disappearing like a cloud. He that goeth down to the grave shall come up no more. He shall return no more to his house, neither shall his place know him any more. Job does not keep silent. He opens his soul. Why have you set me as a mark against you? Am I a sea monster, that you set a watch over me? He feels watched even in dreams. When I say, my bed shall comfort me, I am scared with dreams and terrify me through visions. And then, in a whisper of pain, he says, so that my soul chooseth strangling and death rather than my life. He questions, what is man, that you should magnify him, and that you should set your heart upon him, and that you should visit him every morning and try him every moment? How long will you not depart from me, nor let me alone till I swallow down my spittle? At last, his voice falters. If I have sinned, what shall I do unto you, you preserver of men? Why have you set me as a mark against you? Why do you not pardon my transgression? For now shall I sleep in the dust, and you shall seek me in the morning. But I shall not be. After Job's vent, Bildad the Shuhite rises. His expression is serious, the tone direct, without detours. How long will you speak these things? Job, your words are like a strong wind, noise, but without reason. He does not try to console, he corrects. Doth God pervert judgment, or doth the Almighty pervert justice? Bildad makes a cutting assumption. If your children have sinned against God, he has delivered them into the deserved punishment, and then points out a path, as if the solution were simple. If you would seek unto God betimes and make your supplication to the Almighty, if you were pure and upright, surely now he would awake for you and restore your righteousness. For Bildad, the key is repentance. Everything Job lost, he says, can be restored if there is humility and obedience. He then appeals to tradition, asks past generations. The ancients have wisdom. We are but of yesterday and know nothing. They saw more than us. And like a teacher who teaches by images, he says, can the rush grow up without mire? Can the flag grow without water? So are the paths of all that forget God, and the hypocrite's hope shall perish. Bildad concludes with a solemn tone. God will not cast away a perfect man, neither will he help the evildoers, and ends as if giving a certain destiny to Job, if he would only surrender. If you are pure, God will fill your mouth with laughing, and your enemies will be ashamed. But there before him, Job remains in silence. The pain was not undone by promises, and the justice of God still continues without an answer. Job takes a deep breath before responding. Bildad's words still echo, but he does not respond with anger. He responds with reverence and despair. I know it is so of a truth, but how should man be just with God? He does not deny divine justice, but feels the weight of an impossible judgment. If he will contend with him, he cannot answer him one of 1,000. Job speaks about divine greatness with words that tremble. God removes mountains, and they do not know, shakes the earth, and it trembles, commands the sun that it shine not, spreads out the heavens, walks upon the waves of the sea, made the bear, Orion, and the Pleiades, does wonders unsearchable. But before this greatness, man is a breath. He passeth by me, and I see him not. If he takes away, who can hinder him? Who will say unto him, What doest you? Job feels crushed by a God who is just, but unreachable. Even if I were innocent, my own mouth would condemn me. He declares himself weak before the Lord. I am perfect, yet would I not know my soul. I despise my life. And then, with a trembling voice, he throws his pain to the heavens. God destroys both the innocent and the wicked. If a scourge kills suddenly, he laughs at the trial of the innocent. Job feels that the world is turned upside down. The judge is sold. Evil wins. And if I wash myself with snow, my own clothes would plunge me in the mire. He desires a mediator, someone who can place his hand between him and God. Neither is there any daysman betwixt us that might lay his hand upon us both. Let him take his rod away from me, and let not his fear terrify me. Finally, he confesses, Then would I speak and not fear him. But as I am now, I cannot. Job raises his voice again, but now he no longer speaks to his friends. He speaks directly to God, with an open heart and soul in pieces. My soul is weary of my life. I will leave my complaint. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. He looks to the sky and cries out, Do not condemn me, O God. Show me wherefore you contend with me. His questions cut like spears. Is it good unto you that you should oppress, that you should despise the work of your hands and shine upon the counsel of the wicked? Job feels observed, crushed, judged. Have you eyes of flesh, or see you as man seeth? Are your days as the days of man, your years as man's days? He remembers that it was God who formed him and then asks with pain, Why have you brought me forth out of the womb if it was for me to suffer? Did you not pour me out as milk, as one who molds clay? Did you not clothe me with skin and flesh and fence me with bones and sinews? But now Job feels that everything is falling apart. You formed me and now you destroy me. He questions divine justice. If I sin, then you mark me. But if I am righteous, yet will you not acquit me? And then, as a final lament, he says, Why have you brought me forth out of the womb? Oh, that I might have given up the ghost. Let me alone that I may take comfort a little, before I go whence I shall not return, even to the land of darkness and the shadow of death, a land of darkness, as darkness itself, and where the light is as darkness. God still does not answer, and Job continues in his pain, waiting, asking, resisting. Zophar the Naamathite finally rises. He is the third friend, and his voice comes without detours. Without compassion, should not the multitude of words be answered, and should a man full of talk be justified? Zophar does not hide his indignation. You say, My doctrine is pure. I am clean in your eyes. Oh, that God would speak and open his lips against you. He accuses Job of hiding sin under beautiful words. No, Job. God exacts of you less than your iniquity deserves, and then Zophar exalts in his vision of the Most High. Can you, by searching, find out God? Can you find out the Almighty unto perfection? It is as high as heaven, deeper than hell, longer than the earth, broader than the sea, for him. No one can escape the eye of God, and the fools, even in silence, continue to be fools. But Zophar also presents a path. If you prepare your heart, stretch out your hands to God, and put away iniquity from your hand, then you shall lift up your face without spot. You shall be steadfast. You shall forget your pain. He paints a future of hope, but based on the condition of repentance. Confidence will fill you. You shall lie down and none shall make you afraid. But the eyes of the wicked shall fail. Their hope shall be the giving up of the ghost, a breath in vain. Zophar ends, but did not bring solace, only judgment. And Job follows alone among the rubble of pain and the silence of God. Job raises his eyes and finally responds, no longer in tears, but with irony. Now he speaks to the three. No doubt, but you are the people, and wisdom shall die with you. His tone is acid. He feels mocked by his friends, even being the righteous who cries out to God. I am as one mocked of his neighbor, who calleth upon God, and he answereth him. The just upright man is laughed to scorn. He looks around and sees the world backwards. The tabernacles of robbers prosper. Those who provoke God live in peace, and those who have the God of strength in their hands, these win. Job then points to nature. It knows what men pretend to ignore. Ask now the beasts, and they shall teach you. The birds, the fishes, the earth, all know. They know that everything is in the hands of God. Life and death, strength and weakness. In the hand of God is the soul of everything that lives. He breaks down and none can build again. He shuts up and none can open. He dries up the rivers and turns them into dust. Job exalts the power of God with fear. With him is wisdom and strength. He hath counsel and understanding. And then he begins to list what God is capable of doing. Cast down kings, blind judges, confuse the wise, humiliate the powerful. He discovereth deep things out of darkness, and bringeth out to light the shadow of death. Job ends by reminding everyone that the dominion is of God, not of men, and that his ways do not always fit into human formulas. Job continues. His voice gains firmness. He no longer speaks only with his friends. Now he faces the sky. Lo, mine eye hath seen all this. Mine ear hath heard and understood it. I know as much as you. I am not inferior unto you. He rejects the empty speeches. I would speak to the Almighty. I desire to reason with God. He accuses his friends of distorting the truth with religious zeal, but without justice. You are forgers of lies. You are all physicians of no value. Oh, that you would altogether hold your peace, and it should be your wisdom. With courage, Job warns them. Will you speak wickedly for God? Will you talk deceitfully for him? Will you accept his person? Will you contend for God? Can you deceive him as a man mocks another? He reminds them, God sees everything, and if he judges them, they will tremble. Then he turns to the sky and cries out, hear diligently my speech and my declaration with your ears. I wants justice, wants to be heard, wants to know. Why? How many are mine iniquities and sins? Make me to know my transgression and my sin. He feels that God pursues him as an enemy. Wherefore hiddest you your face and holdest me for your enemy? and ends with a whisper of weariness. You put my feet also in the stocks, and markest narrowly all my paths. But man is like rotten wood, like a garment eaten by the moth. Job lowers his head. His words now come as an ancient lament, a whisper that could come from the mouth of any man tired of existing. Man that is born of a woman is of few days and full of trouble. He cometh forth like a flower, and is cut down. He fleeth also as a shadow, and continueth not. You open your eyes upon him, and bringest him into judgment with you. Job recognizes his limitation. Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? Not one. Man has his days numbered, his limits defined. Nothing escapes the eye of God. Turn from him that he may rest, till he shall accomplish as an hireling his day. And then Job turns to nature, sees hope in a tree, even cut down. It can sprout, though the root thereof wax old in the earth, and the stalk thereof die in the ground. Yet through the scent of water it will bud. But with man it is not so. Man dieth and wasteth away. Yea, man giveth up the ghost, and where is he? He observes the rivers drying up, the seas emptying, but man upon dying does not return again, till the heavens be no more. They shall not awake, nor be raised out of their sleep. Then Job reveals his deepest desire. Oh, that you would hide me in the grave, that you would keep me secret until your wrath be past. He dreams of a time when God will call him, and he will answer from the grave. You would number my steps and not watch over my sin, but reality returns to press him. As the waters wear the stones, so you destroy the hope of man. Job ends looking at the dust, at the tomb, at the silence. Eliphaz returns to the conversation. Now, his voice is not of solace, nor of counsel. It is of rebuke. Should a wise man utter vain knowledge and fill his belly with the east wind? He accuses Job of using his mouth not for wisdom, but to destroy. Your mouth uttereth thine iniquity, and you choosest the tongue of the crafty. For Eliphaz, Job's words reveal guilt, not justice. Your own mouth condemneth you, and not I. Yea, your own lips testify against you. He is offended by Job's boldness before God. Are you the first man that was born? Or were you made before the hills? Eliphaz accuses Job of despising the teaching of thinking he is above others. Have you heard the secret of God? And dost you restrain wisdom to yourself? And then, as if he were a teacher, he describes the destiny of the wicked. The wicked man travaileth with pain all his days. He hears sounds of terror. He lives expecting the sword. He says that the wicked distrust their own shadow, live with a restless heart, and die without redemption. He stretched out his hand against God and strengthened himself against the Almighty, running upon him, even on his neck, with the thick bosses of his bucklers. Eliphaz paints the picture of a rebellious man, but he is clearly referring to Job. The wicked shall dwell in desolate cities, will have a bitter harvest, and will carry nothing from his wealth, and ends with coldness. Fire shall consume his tent. His fruit shall be vanity. His soul shall be deceived. For deception is the reward of the wicked. He ends, but does not console, does not understand, and does not realize that even in silence, God continues to be the only judge. Job sighs deeply. Eliphaz's words still burn like salt in an open wound, but he no longer tries to be understood. He just vents. I have heard many such things. Miserable comforters are you all. He looks into his friend's eyes, exhausted. Shall vain words have an end? Or what emboldeneth you that you answer? With irony, he says. I also could speak as you do. If your soul were in my soul's stead, I could heap up words against you, but I would strengthen you with my mouth. He drives in, though I speak, my grief is not assuaged, and though I forbear, what am I eased? Then Job turns to God and like someone who bleeds inside, exposes his pain. Now he hath made me weary. You have made desolate all my company. He hath also torn me in his wrath, who hateth me. His pain is not just physical, it is social, it is spiritual. Witnesses are against me. My friends have turned away. God has delivered me to the wicked. He describes his appearance: face abated, eyes sunken, skin blackened by pain. But yet is there no violence in mine hands, and my prayer is pure. In the midst of the lament, Job has a flash of hope. O earth, cover not you my blood, and let my cry have no place. Also now, behold, my witness is in heaven and my record is on high. Someone in the heights who advocates for me, and he cries out like someone who pleads for justice beyond life. Let one plead for a man with God, as a man pleadeth for his neighbor, but soon reality drags him back. When a few years are come, then I shall go the way whence I shall not return. Job's voice now is weak, but still firm. Each word seems to come from the bottom of a dark well. My spirit is broken. My days are extinct. The graves are ready for me. He looks around and sees no solace, only mockery. Are there not mockers with me? Their eyes pour out bitterness upon me. He cries out for some kind of guarantee, for someone to stand for him before God. Lay down now. Put me in a surety with you. Who is he that will strike hands with me? But his hope seems to slip through his fingers. You have hid their heart from understanding. Therefore shall you not exalt them? He feels like a man abandoned by all, even by the children of those he despises. Now I am their song. Yea, I am their byword. They spare not to spit in my face. Job is tired of fighting. He feels broken inside. Mine eye also is dim by reason of sorrow, and all my members are as a shadow. Even so, he still tries to find meaning. Upright men shall be astonied at this. The innocent shall stir up himself against the hypocrite, but his hope becomes increasingly fragile. What then is my hope? Who shall see it? And finally, he faces destiny with a resigned sigh. They shall go down to the bars of the pit, when our rest together is in the dust. Bildad rises again. Now his patience has run out. His tone is harsh. His words are sharp. How long will it be ere you make an end of words? Wherefore are we counted as beasts and reputed vile in your sight? He tells Job to speak. Then we will speak, and the light will shine. But his speech brings no light. It brings sentence. The wicked is taken out of the earth. The light of his lamp shall be put out. His steps shall be straightened. He is cast into a net by his own feet. Bildad describes the destruction with details. Snares shall take him by the heel. Terrors shall make him afraid on every side. Disease devours his skin. Death consumes his members. He speaks of an empty house, of extinguished descendants, of forgotten name. He shall have neither son nor nephew among his people. He is driven from light into darkness, neither root nor branch, nor memory. Bildad ends his speech as if reading the final sentence. Surely such are the dwellings of the wicked, and this is the place of him that knoweth not God. But before him, Job remains wounded, but alive, accused, but not vanquished, silenced, but still in search of an answer from the sky. Job rises like someone holding his soul with his hands. His voice carries sadness, but now also a sacred fire. How long will you vex my soul and break me in pieces with words? These 10 times have you reproached me. Are you not ashamed to make yourselves strange to me? He feels treated as a defendant without defense. And be it indeed that I have erred, mine error remaineth with myself. And then he declares with pain, God hath overthrown me, encompassed me with his net, stripped me of my glory, and taken the crown from my head. Job feels like a knocked-down house, like a tree torn up by the roots. My brethren have put far from me. My acquaintances are verily estranged from me. My servants do not know me. My wife finds my breath loathsome. Even children mock him. Even his intimate friends have turned against him. I am escaped with the skin of my teeth. And then he cries out to his friends, have pity upon me. Have pity upon me. You, my friends, for the hand of God hath touched me. But no one listens. Then Job raises his voice to the sky and prophesies without knowing. Oh, that my words were now written. Oh, that they were printed in a book, that they were graven with an iron pen and lead in the rock forever. And then, in the midst of the ashes, a light explodes. For I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. With the eyes of the Spirit, he sees beyond the pain. And though after my skin worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh shall I see God, whom I shall see for myself, and mine eyes shall behold. Job ends with a warning. If you continue to persecute me, fear the sword, for there is judgment, and there is someone who judges. Zophar does not wait, nor let the echo of Job's faith take hold. His response comes fast and hard. Therefore do my thoughts cause me to answer, and for this I make haste. He does not discuss pain. He discusses justice. Know you not this of old, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, the joy of the hypocrite, but for a moment. Zophar compares the wicked to someone who swallows wealth, but soon vomits it. God makes him vomit it all up. That which he labored for shall he not eat. He describes evil as a poison hidden in the mouth. Though it be sweet in his mouth, it turns into gall of asps in the belly. The speech is direct, without mercy. The wicked builds riches, but does not enjoy them. That which he stole, he cannot keep. Zophar paints the fall of the wicked as inevitable, fast, brutal, without inheritance, without solace. When he is about to fill his belly, God shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him. He shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. Zophar ends as if preaching a final judgment. The heaven shall reveal his iniquity, and the earth shall rise up against him. This is the portion of a wicked man from God, and the heritage appointed unto him by God. He keeps silent, but his words weigh more than the silence. Job hears, but his spirit no longer breaks so easily, because he knows. His answer does not come from men. Job takes a deep breath. The pain is still there, but now his words come with clarity and challenge. Hear diligently my speech, and let this be your consolations. He faces his friends and lets out the truth. Wherefore do the wicked live, become old? Yea, are mighty in power. Job describes what everyone sees, but no one wants to admit. Their seed is established in their sight. Their houses are safe from fear. Neither is the rod of God upon them. Their bull gendereth, and faileth not. They sing to the sound of the timbrel and spend their days in wealth. He exposes the contradiction. They say unto God, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of your ways. Even so they prosper. Is there counsel in their hand, or does God judge everything now? Job looks at his friends and challenges. How oft is the candle of the wicked put out? How oft cometh their destruction upon them? He shows that punishment does not always fall upon the perverse immediately. Often they die in peace, buried with honor, followed by multitudes to the tomb. And then Job launches the question that silences, "Who will convince me otherwise?" He concludes, "Your answers are falsehood, and your words are wind." Eliphaz returns, but this time he abandons any appearance of gentleness. Now, his words are direct accusations. Can a man be profitable unto God? Can the Almighty have any profit with your righteousness? He leaves aside the detours. Is not your wickedness great, and your iniquities infinite? And then he points the finger with heavy accusations. For you have taken a pledge from your brother for naught, stripped the naked, withheld water from the thirsty, retained bread from the hungry, sent widows away empty-handed. According to Eliphaz, Job's suffering is a deserved sentence. Therefore snares are round about you, and sudden fear troubleth you. He declares that God is in the heights and sees everything. Can you hide yourself from him? Does he not see even beyond the clouds? Eliphaz insists that Job is walking the path of the wicked, the same ones who were destroyed suddenly. And then he offers one last appeal. Acquaint now yourself with him, and be at peace. Thereby good shall come unto you. Receive, I pray you, the law from his mouth. Lay up his words in your heart. Cast away the gold in the dust, and the Almighty shall be thy defense. He promises restoration if Job humbles himself. If you return to the Almighty, you shall be built up. You shall make your prayer unto him, and he shall hear you. And the thing which you decree shall be established unto you. But Job did not ask for wealth. He asked for justice. And in this his friends still have not heard him. Job raises his voice again, but this time not to defend himself from men, but to seek the one who remains in silence. Even today is my complaint bitter. My stroke is heavier than my groaning. His heart cries out for an encounter with God. Oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might come even to his seat. Job dreams of a fair trial. I would order my cause before him and fill my mouth with arguments, but not to contend, but to hear. I would know what he would answer me. I would understand what he would say unto me. He believes that God would not crush him. No, but he would put strength in me, and the righteous would be safe before him. But Job looks around and does not see God. Behold, I go forward, but he is not there, and backward, but I cannot perceive him. And even so, he declares with firm faith, but he knoweth the way that I take. When he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold. Job states that he has followed the Lord's steps. My foot hath held his steps. His way have I kept and not declined. Neither have I gone back from the commandment of his lips. I have esteemed the words of his mouth more than my necessary food. Even without answers, he trusts. He is in one mind. And who can turn him? And what his soul desireth, even that he doeth. But his greatness frightens him. Therefore am I troubled at his presence. I am afraid, and even so he remains. God makes my heart soft, but has not destroyed me. Job continues. Now he points to the real world, where injustice walks free, and God seems for a moment in silence. Why? Seeing times are not hidden from the Almighty. Do they that know him not see his days? He describes a land where the wicked act freely, remove landmarks, steal flocks, beat orphans, take from the poor even the donkey. Job sees the innocent being trampled. The needy hide themselves like wild animals. They are wet with the showers of the mountains and embrace the rock for want of a shelter. Hungry children glean leftovers. Workers tread wine presses. but suffer thirst. Men groan in the cities, and no one answers. God does not pay attention to this injustice. Job recognizes the boldness of the perverse. They are of those that rebel against the light. Murderers rise with the light. Adulterers lie in wait in the shadow. Thieves act in the darkness. The night becomes shelter for sin, but the day brings judgment. They are as swift as the waters. Their portion is cursed. They are forgotten like broken trees. Even so, Job sees that they do not always fall soon. God sustains them in safety. They lean on Him and prosper, but everything has a limit. They are exalted for a while, then they fall. They are gathered as the tops of the ears of corn. Job ends with boldness. And if it be not so now, who will make me a liar? Bildad speaks for the last time. His words are few, but heavy, like someone who no longer tries to convince, only to exalt. God is sovereign, fearsome in His majesty. He makes peace in His high places. He points to divine greatness. Is there any number of His armies? And upon whom doth not His light arise? And then He reduces man to dust. How then can man be justified with God? Or how can he be clean that is born of a woman? He looks to the sky and concludes, if even the moon shineth not with purity, and the stars are not pure in His eyes, how much less man, a worm, and the Son of Man, which is a worm. Bildad keeps silent. There is no direct accusation, only the reminder that before God all are small. But Job still expects more than silence and comparison. He expects justice and an encounter with the God who sees everything. Job responds, but not with lament, with admiration and reverence. How have you helped him that is without power? How have you saved the arm that hath no strength? He says with irony to his friends, but soon his voice turns to the height. He contemplates the invisible and describes the unattainable. Dead things are formed from under the waters, and the inhabitants thereof. Hell is naked before him, and destruction hath no covering. He speaks of the God who sustains everything with the invisible. He stretcheth out the north over the empty place, and hangeth the earth upon nothing, with poetry and power. Job declares, He bindeth up the waters in His thick clouds, and the cloud is not rent under them. He holdeth back the face of His throne, and spreadeth His cloud upon it. He compasseth the waters with bounds. He points out the limit between light and darkness, where the universe bends the knee before the glory. The pillars of heaven tremble and are astonished at His reproof. He looks at the sea and sees the finger of God. He divideth the sea with His power, and by His understanding He smiteth through the proud. Job closes his eyes and confesses, Lo, these are parts of His ways, but how little a portion is heard of Him. But the thunder of His power who can understand? Job returns to speak. His voice is not of despair, it is of conviction, as God liveth, who hath taken away my judgment, and the Almighty, who hath vexed my soul. He swears with firmness, all the while my breath is in me, and the Spirit of God is in my nostrils. My lips shall not speak wickedness, nor my tongue utter deceit. And then declares with all the force of his soul, God forbid that I should justify you. Till I die, I will not remove mine integrity from me. Job holds justice like a shield. My righteousness I hold fast and will not let it go. My heart shall not reproach me so long as I live. He looks at the destiny of the wicked and describes it with coldness. What is the portion of a wicked man? When God cuts off his life, when his soul is taken, he responds with hard images. If his children be multiplied, it is for the sword, and his offspring shall not be satisfied with bread. His house shall be swept by the storm. Riches shall be like dust carried by the wind. Job describes the heritage of the perverse. Terrors take hold on him as waters. A tempest stealeth him away in the night. Heaven shall reveal his iniquity, and the earth shall rise up against him. And then concludes, without backing down. This is the portion of a wicked man with God, and the heritage of oppressors, which they shall receive of the Almighty. He remains standing before men and before God, still waiting for an answer. But without letting go of the truth he carries in his chest. Job keeps silent for an instant, but his mind dives deep. He observes what man is capable of doing. Man digs the earth, explores the depths, finds gold, silver, iron, and precious stones. He turns rivers, opens passages in the darkness, and rips hidden treasures from the womb of the earth. But where shall wisdom be found? And where is the place of understanding? He looks around and does not find the answer. Man knows not the price thereof. It is not found in the land of the living. The depth saith, it is not in me, and the sea saith, it is not with me. It cannot be gotten for gold, neither shall silver be weighed for the price thereof. Where then does wisdom come from? Job then points to the sky. God understandeth the way thereof, and he knoweth the place thereof. For he looketh to the ends of the earth, and seeth under the whole heaven. When he made a decree for the rain, and a way for the lightning of the thunder, then did he see it, and declare it. He prepared it, yea, and searched it out. And finally, Job declares what God said to man. Behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. Job leans back for a moment and lets nostalgia speak louder than pain. Oh, that I were as in months past, as in the days when God preserved me. He remembers the divine light that guided him, when his candle shined upon my head, and when by his light I walked through darkness. Job revives the days of communion. When the Almighty was still with me and my children were about me, he remembers the time of prosperity, when I washed my steps with butter, and the rock poured me out rivers of oil. He was respected, honored, heard. When I went out to the gate through the city, the young men saw me and hid themselves. The aged arose and stood up. The princes refrained talking, and the ears that heard me blessed me, because I delivered the poor that cried, was eyes to the blind, feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy. He did justice like a garment and mantle. He brake the jaws of the wicked and plucked the spoil out of his teeth. And then, with a sigh, he says, Then I said, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand. His life seemed solid, roots firm, branches fruitful, glory renewed. Unto me men gave ear and waited. My word dropped upon them like dew. But now everything has changed, and Job keeps in his chest the silence of someone who already had everything, and today only has memories. Job sighs and descends from the glorious memory to the bitter reality. But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. He describes these mockers with contempt. Weak, hungry, expelled from society. They live in cliffs of the valleys, in caves, among thorns. And now they sing songs of mockery against him, spit before his face, because he hath loosed my cord and afflicted me and humiliated me. They have no bridle. They rise against me. Job is surrounded by contempt. They came upon me as a wide breaking in of waters. They advance upon me like a storm. His dignity was torn away, his body afflicted. The days of affliction have taken hold upon me. My bones are pierced in me in the night season. My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat. He no longer walks upright. He bows in ashes. His harp turned to lamentation, his flute, weeping. And then, with a broken voice, he confesses, I cry unto you, and you do not hear me. I stand up, and you regardest me not. Job rises for the last time, like someone who goes to the court before the sky. He presents his defense. I made a covenant with mine eyes. Why then should I think upon a maid? He does not hide. He speaks with purity and conviction. If I have walked with vanity, let God weigh me in an even balance, and he will know that I am perfect. Job opens his life part by part, without fear of being examined. If my heart hath been deceived, if I laid snares for my neighbor, then let another eat that which I planted. He speaks of his faithfulness to his wife, of his justice with servants, of his compassion for the poor. If I did despise the cause of my manservant, if I withheld the poor from their desire, let mine arm fall from my shoulder blade. Job remembers that he fears God, because he knows that in the end, everyone will answer before him. If I rejoiced at the destruction of him that hated me, that would be sin. He reveals that he never closed himself to foreigners, nor kept sin in his chest. If I covered my transgressions as Adam, by hiding mine iniquity in my bosom, then I deserve shame. But now he cries out, oh, that one would hear me. Behold, my desire is that the Almighty would answer me. He ends his speech with boldness and humility. If my land cry against me, let thistles grow instead of wheat. And then Job keeps silent. His speech ends, but his heart remains exposed. Not before men, but before God. After Job silences, a new sound echoes in the air, a voice that had not yet spoken. Elihu, the youngest among all, rises. Until then, he had kept silent out of respect for the older ones. But now he cannot take it anymore. His wrath was kindled against Job because he justified himself rather than God. Also against his 3 friends was his wrath kindled because they had found no answer and yet had condemned Job. Elihu is boiling inside. I am young, and you are very old. Wherefore I was afraid, and durst not show you mine opinion. But he declares that it is not age that brings wisdom, but the breath of the Spirit of God in man. Great men are not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment. Now he speaks with authority. I waited for your words. I gave ear to your reasons, but there was none of you that convinced Job. Elihu is not there to flatter. Let me not, I pray you, accept any man's person, neither let me give flattering titles unto man, for in so doing my Maker would soon take me away. He takes a deep breath and announces, I have much to say in favor of God. My spirit is full of matter. My lips shall utter knowledge clearly. The storm changes direction. Now Elihu speaks, and the sky listens. Elihu turns directly to Job, but unlike the others, he does not accuse him with contempt. He speaks like someone who wishes to wake up, not crush. Hear, Job, my speeches. I speak with sincerity. My lips shall utter knowledge clearly. Elihu presents himself with humility. Behold, I am according to your wish in God's stead. I also am formed out of the clay. Fear not. My terror shall not make you afraid. Then he begins to touch on Job's words. Surely you have spoken in mine hearing, and I have heard the voice of your words, saying, I am clean without transgression. I am innocent. Neither is there iniquity in me. Behold, he findeth occasions against me. He counteth me for his enemy. He rebukes him with firmness. But in this you are not just. God is greater than man. He shows that God speaks even when man does not notice. God speaketh once, yea, twice. Yet man perceiveth it not, in dreams, in visions, on the bed of pain, to withdraw man from his purpose and hide pride from man. He describes the afflicted man, with pained bones, soul loathing even food, skin clinging to bones. But there is hope, if there be a messenger with him, an interpreter, one among 1,000, to show unto man his uprightness. Then he is gracious unto him and saith, Deliver him from going down to the pit. His flesh shall be fresher than a child's, and he shall return to the days of his youth, and he shall pray unto God, and he shall be favorable unto him. Elihu concludes, Behold, these things worketh God, not to condemn, but to guide to the light of life. He looks at Job and leaves an invitation. Speak, if you have anything to say. I desire to justify you, but if you have not, listen to me in silence. I shall teach you wisdom. He raises his voice before all. Now he does not speak only with Job. He speaks to the wise men who listen around. Hear my words. O you wise men, let us choose to us judgment. Let us know among ourselves what is good. Elihu remembers Job's words. Job said, I am righteous, but God hath taken away my judgment. Count, what profit shall I have if I am perfect, if God treats me as an enemy? With this, he is indignant. What man is like Job, who drinketh up scorning like water, which goeth in company with the workers of iniquity? For he hath said, It profiteth a man nothing that he should delight himself with God. He then defends the character of the Most High. Far be it from God, that he should do wickedness, and from the Almighty, that he should commit iniquity. Elihu declares that God renders to every man according to his work, and that nothing forces him to maintain the breath of life. If he set his heart upon man, if he gather unto himself his spirit and his breath, all flesh shall perish together. He challenges, If you have understanding, hear this. Shall even he that hateth right govern? Will you condemn him that is most just? Elihu remembers that God is not impressed with positions, which accepteth not the persons of princes, nor regardeth the rich more than the poor, for they all are the work of his hands. God sees everything, even in the occult, and no one can deceive him. He shall break in pieces mighty men without number, and set others in their stead. Elihu ends with an appeal to reason. God reigns with justice. But if a man says, I have sinned, I will not do iniquity anymore, then God forgives and finally challenges. Job hath spoken without knowledge. His words are without wisdom. My desire is that Job may be tried unto the end because of his answers for wicked men. But even so, he does not curse Job. He calls him to repentance. Because for Elihu, God does not err, but can restore. Elihu continues. His look is serious, his voice firm. He does not accuse out of arrogance, but exhorts with zeal. Thinkest you this to be right, that you said, My righteousness is more than God's? Elihu repeats Job's words. You said, What advantage will it be unto you? And what profit shall I have if I am cleansed from my sin? And then he responds with wisdom. Look unto the heavens and see, and behold the clouds which are higher than you. If you sin, what do you against him? Or if your transgressions be multiplied, what do you unto him? He shows that God is exalted too much to be shaken by human acts. If you be righteous, what givest you him? Or what receiveth he of your hand? He says. Your acts touch men, not God. Then he points him to the clamor of those who suffer. By reason of the multitude of oppressions they make the oppressed to cry. They cry out by reason of the arm of the mighty, but they fail to ask the right question. But none saith, Where is God my Maker, who giveth songs in the night? He teaches him that it is not the empty clamor that moves the sky, but the broken heart. Surely God will not hear vanity, neither will the Almighty regard it. And then, before the silence of God, Elihu says to Job, Although you say you shall not see him, yet judgment is before him. Therefore trust you in him. He does not despise Job's pain, but calls him to reflect. It is not God who needs to change. It is man who needs to understand. Elihu continues to speak. Now his voice rises not to exalt man, but to announce the majesty of God. Suffer me a little, and I will show you that I have yet to speak on God's behalf. He speaks with fear, but with authority. I will fetch my knowledge from afar, and will ascribe righteousness to my Maker. For truly my words shall not be false. Then he exalts him to divine righteousness. Behold, God is mighty and despiseth not any. He is mighty in strength and wisdom. He says that God does not preserve the wicked, but gives right to the poor. If they be bound in fetters and be holden in cords of affliction, it is so that he showeth them their work and their transgressions, that they have exceeded. Elihu affirms, God uses pain as discipline and obedience as a door for restoration. If they obey and serve him, they shall spend their days in prosperity. But if they obey not, they shall perish without knowledge. He warns against pride and affliction, but the hypocrites in heart heap up wrath. They cry not when he bindeth them, Do not trust in wealth, they shall not deliver you. Then he invites Job to look to the sky. God is exalted in power. Who's a teacher like him? He contemplates the universe, and his soul bows in admiration. For he maketh small the drops of water. They pour down rain according to the vapor thereof, which the clouds do drop and distill upon man abundantly. Also can any understand the spreadings of the clouds, or the noise of his tabernacle? Behold, he spreadeth his light upon it, and covereth the bottom of the sea. He commands the lightnings, and covers his hands with thunder. And with the thunder he announces his next step. He tells of it to his cattle, the vapor also concerning the coming up. If he keeps silent, the sky begins to tremble, because the God he announces is about to speak. Elihu raises his eyes to the sky. The wind changes. The air weighs, and his voice becomes fear. At this also my heart trembleth, and is moved out of his place. He points to the sky. Hear attentively the noise of his voice, and the sound that goeth out of his mouth. God speaks in heaven, and nature obeys. He directeth it under the whole heaven, and his lightning unto the ends of the earth. After it a voice roareth. He thundereth with the voice of his excellency. God's thunder no one can ignore. Elihu contemplates the phenomena with the eyes of faith. He saith to the snow, Be you on the earth, likewise to the small rain, and to the great rain of his strength. He sealeth up the hand of every man, that all men may know his work. Then the beasts go into dens and remain in their places. Out of the south cometh the whirlwind, and cold out of the north. By the breath of God frost is given. He fills the clouds, makes it rain over fields and deserts. He causeth it to come, whether for correction, or for his land, or for mercy. Elihu then turns to Job. Hearken unto this, O Job. Stand still and consider the wondrous works of God. He asks with humility, Dost you know when God disposed them and caused the light of his cloud to shine? Dost you know the balancings of the clouds, the wondrous works of him which is perfect in knowledge? He surrenders. We are small before him. We cannot argue. We cannot reach him. And then, with fear declares, God comes in terrible majesty, touching the Almighty. We cannot find him out. He is excellent in power, and in judgment, and in plenty of justice. He will not afflict. He ends with reverence. Men do therefore fear him. He respecteth not any that are wise of heart. The sky silences for an instant, and soon God begins to speak. The wind blows strong. The sky darkens. A whirlwind forms over the ashes where Job sat. And from within it, the voice of the Lord breaks through, not as a whisper, but as thunder that breaks the silence of the sky. Who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Job trembles. The friends keep silent. The air itself seems to hold its breath. Gird up now your loins like a man, for I will demand of you and answer you me. Then God begins to reveal his glory, not by explanations, but by questions that no one can answer. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare, if you have understanding. God describes creation as a work of sacred architecture. Who hath laid the measures thereof? If you know, or who hath stretched the line upon it? He speaks of the foundation of the world, of the moment when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy, or who shut up the sea with doors, when it brake forth as if it had issued out of the womb. He remembers the day when he placed limits to the waters, tracing borders with clouds and darkness, saying, Hitherto shalt you come, but no further, and here shall your proud waves be stayed. At each question, the voice of the Lord pierces the veil of human ignorance. Hast you commanded the morning since your days, and caused the dayspring to know his place? He speaks of light, of the depth of the abyss, of the gates of death. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or have you walked in the search of the depth? Have the gates of death been opened unto you, or have you seen the doors of the shadow of death? God continues, Where is the way where light dwelleth? And as for darkness, where is the place thereof? Each word pours out wisdom, glory, and astonishment. Have you entered into the treasures of the snow? Or have you seen the treasures of the hail, which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of battle and war? He asks about the paths of the lightning, the rains over desert lands, the birth of the dew, the origin of ice and frost, out of whose womb came the ice, and the hoary frost of heaven. Who hath gendered it? The Lord looks to the heavens and challenges. Can you bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Can you bring forth Mazzaroth in his season, then returns to earth? Know you the ordinances of heaven? Can you set the dominion thereof in the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that abundance of waters may cover you? And in a touch of tenderness and majesty, he asks, Wilt you hunt the prey for the lion, or fill the appetite of the young lions? The whole creation answers to him, but now Job needs to answer. The whirlwind spins stronger. God has not finished yet. The earth is in silence, and the voice of the Lord remains firm, serene, and irresistible. Know you the time when the wild goats of the rock bring forth? Or can you mark when the hinds do calve? He asks. Not out of ignorance, but to show Job that even the birth of wild cubs is under his invisible command. Can you number the months that they fulfill? Or know you the time when they bring forth? While man sleeps up there on the cliffs, the offspring are born, grow, gain strength, and leave free, without anyone teaching them. God then points to the wild donkey, who hath sent out the wild ass free, or who hath loosed the bands of the wild ass. He lives far from the cities, disdains the noise of the people, and inhabits the wastelands where only the wind sings. The crying of the driver he does not hear. He seeks pasture where he well pleases. Then the Lord speaks of the wild ox. Will the unicorn be willing to serve you, or abide by your crib? Can you bind the unicorn with his band in the furrow? Will he harrow the valleys after you? Could you trust him to gather your harvest? Will you believe him that he will bring home your seed? God smiles and continues. Now speaks of the ostrich, strange, clumsy, but full of lessons, which leaveth her eggs in the earth, and warmeth them in dust, and forgetteth that the foot may crush them, or that the wild beast may break them. She is hardened against her young ones, as though they were not hers, because God hath deprived her of wisdom. What time she lifteth up herself on high, she scorneth the horse and his rider. Even without wisdom, she carries something unique that only God gave her. Then the Creator turns to the warhorse. Have you given the horse strength? Hast you clothed his neck with thunder? He jumps with bravery, faces danger, does not retreat before the spear. He paweth in the valley and rejoiceth in his strength. He goeth on to meet the armed men. He mocketh at fear, and is not affrighted. Neither turneth he back from the sword. God created him like this, indomitable, courageous, beautiful, and furious. And now he points to the sky. Doth the hawk fly by your wisdom, and stretch her wings toward the south? Doth the eagle mount up at your command, and make her nest on high? She dwelleth and abideth on the rock, upon the crag of the rock and the strong place. From thence she seeketh the prey, and her eyes behold afar off. Her young ones also suck up blood, and where the slain are, there is she. God ends this part of the speech, but Job still does not answer, because before such wisdom, only silence remains, silence and fear. The whirlwind still spins over the earth. The dust settles little by little, but the voice of the Lord remains clear, firm, incontestable. The Lord addresses directly to Job. Shall he that contendeth with the Almighty instruct him? He that reproveth God, let him answer it. Job feels the weight of the glory. His eyes have no more strength. His lips tremble. He responds with broken humility. Behold, I am vile. What shall I answer you? I will lay mine hand upon my mouth. Once have I spoken, but I will not answer. Yea, twice, but I will proceed no further. But God has not finished yet. Out of the midst of the whirlwind, the Lord speaks again. Gird up your loins now like a man. I will demand of you and declare you unto me. And then God confronts with depth. Wilt you also disannul my judgment? Wilt you condemn me, that you may be righteous? He challenges Job. Have you an arm like God? Or can you thunder with a voice like him? If Job is so powerful, then deck yourself now with majesty and excellency, and array yourself with glory and beauty. Cast abroad the rage of your wrath, and behold everyone that is proud and abase him. God challenges him to do justice with his own hands, to bring judgment to the perverse, to hide the proud in the dust. Then will I also confess unto you that your own right hand can save you. But God knows, no man can. And then, to show his power, the Lord reveals one of his most mysterious creatures. Behold now Behemoth, which I made with you. He describes it as colossal, living force of creation. He eateth grass as an ox. Lo now, his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. He moveth his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. God declares, "He is the chief of the ways of God. He that made him can make his sword to approach unto him. This being dwells among the rivers. Surely the mountains bring him forth food. Where all the beasts of the field play, he lieth under the shady trees, in the covert of the reed and fens. Behold, he drinketh up a river, and hasteth not. He trusteth that he can draw up Jordan into his mouth. He taketh it with his eyes. His nose pierceth through snares." The answer is obvious. Man cannot. The Creator can. And Job begins to understand. God's purpose was not to crush him, but to reveal to him something greater than pain: his sovereignty, his justice, and his presence. The voice of the Lord continues to echo from the whirlwind. Now he challenges Job with the image of Leviathan, a creature so indomitable, so terrifying, that no man would dare face it. Can you draw out Leviathan with an hook, or his tongue with a cord which you lettest down? God reveals the strength of this colossal being. None is so fierce that dare stir him up. His teeth are terrible round about. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal. And out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. Weapons do not wound him. Iron and brass are like straw before him. He laughs at the spear, at the bow, at the sword. The Lord describes Leviathan as the king of the proud, the most fearsome among creatures. He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride. And then God confronts Job with a deep truth. If no one can dominate Leviathan, who then will dare face me? Job hears not just about a monster, but about the incomparable power of the one who created all things. The whirlwind ceased, the thunder silenced, and everything around Job is in peace. But within him there is something even greater than the storm, the revelation. Then, finally, Job opens his mouth, not to complain, but to surrender. "I know that you can do everything, and that no thought can be withholden from you." His voice is embattled, but each word is an altar. You asked, "Who is he that hideth counsel without knowledge? Therefore have I uttered that I understood not, things too wonderful for me, which I knew not." Job had asked so much. Now he only wants to hear. "I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now mine eye seeth you." And then he humbles himself entirely. "Wherefore I abhor myself, and repent in dust and ashes." Nothing else needs to be said. The man who lost everything now meets everything that matters. The Lord then turns to Job's friends, but now it is God who speaks with holy authority. "My wrath is kindled against you and against your two friends, for you have not spoken of me the thing that is right, as my servant Job hath, and God orders. Take unto you now 7 bullocks and 7 rams. Go to my servant Job, and offer up for yourselves a burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for you. For him will I accept." Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar obey. They come to Job, the man they had judged, and Job, with a clean heart, prays for them, and then the sky opens. God changes Job's luck the exact moment he prays for his friends, and the restoration begins. The Lord gives Job double of everything he possessed. Then came there unto him all his brethren and all his sisters, and all they that had been of his acquaintance before, and did eat bread with him in his house. And they bemoaned him and comforted him over all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him. God blesses his last years more than the first. Job returns to have flocks, 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 donkeys. And then God gives him again sons and daughters. 7 sons and 3 daughters with names that are living: Jemima, Keziam, and Karen Hapuch. And the text says, "And in all the land were no women found so fair as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them inheritance among their brethren." After this lived Job 140 years, saw his sons and his sons' sons, even to the 4th generation. So Job died, being old and full of days, but more than days. Job departed full of the presence of God. And so ends the book of Job, not with bitterness, but with repentance, not with defeat, but with revelation, not with a broken man, but with a transformed man. In this story, we saw the sky in silence, hell in motion, and the earth in agony. We saw an upright man lose everything: children, health, wealth, reputation. Everything vanished like wind in the desert. We saw his friends accuse him, his wife discourage him, and his heart trying to understand what it could not see. But above all pain, we saw a sovereign God who never lost control. We saw questions that were not answered with logic, but with presence. We saw that suffering does not reveal God's absence, but can lead us to see who He really is. Job knew God by hearing, but after the storm, he saw. And because he saw, he kept silent, he surrendered, he humbled himself, and was restored. If you reached this far, you are part of a special group, those who not only read the Bible, but walk with it until the end. There were 42 chapters of confrontation, pain, faith, silence, and glory. Each part of this study was made with fear, prayer, study, and delivery with a single purpose: to edify your faith. So, if you watched until here, comment down below. I reached the end of the book of Job, and now I know that my Redeemer liveth. This comment shows that you are part of a rare people who honor the Word of God, even in the most difficult chapters. People who do not run from pain, but cross it with faith. Now I invite you, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to the channel to continue this walk through the Bible. But more than any like, let this story change your life. The book of Job was not written to give us all the answers, but to remind us that God is sufficient, even when we do not understand everything. It shows us that true faith does not depend on blessings, but on trust in God's character. So I make you an invitation: surrender to Him, not with revolt, but with reverence, not with pride, but with humility. Let God be God, and let the end of your story also be written by His hands. If you still have not given your life to Jesus, do it today. Accept Job's Redeemer as your Redeemer. This story was not told to entertain. It was told to transform. Now tell me, which part of the book of Job touched your heart the most? Which answer from God? Which word of Job? Which turnaround made you stop and think? Comment down below. This was the book of Job, chapter by chapter, from beginning to end. And I pray that it has edified your life, just as it edified mine. God bless you, and until the next study, if He permits.